Well, that was unusual. Had it as an overlay, not an background. So definitely is another amazing day here in Durham, North Carolina. Got a lot of things going on. Been very busy with the work week and all of that. So definitely been doing things with measurement and a number of other things in our community. Have some guests that I'm hoping will be appearing later on this afternoon, but had to come in to the radio show here on the International Broadcast Media to share a number of the things that we've got going on in our world. And of course, there are a number of things that are happening in society and with our world. So definitely glad that folks were able to get outside yesterday, because I understand there was a fantastic day in terms of the weather. Temperatures like around high 60s or low 70s or something like that. But definitely I got out for a minute or two, even though I had friends that were out for a lot longer than that. So definitely some great weather was had. And I know a lot of folks were out there enjoying that amazing weather and were having a good time with the weather that they were checking out. So I know that a lot of folks are engaged and everything. So definitely always amazing seeing some great folks here in the community and all of that. So see, my good friend Tim Sohn has popped in and saying hello to me. So I appreciate Tim saying hello and letting us know what he's got going on in his world. You know, he is truly a great person and all of that. So definitely he's giving a shout out to the beard and everything. So it's been a little bit trimmed and it's almost time for another trim, but we'll get that. But definitely always great seeing my amazing friend Tim Sohn commenting on what he's got going on in his world. Like I said, we were very busy last week, had the Black Business Olympics, part of the definite event that was going on there with my good friend Eric Kelly. And he had a number of great speakers that came to speak on empowerment and a number of other issues, including health, including a number of other things that where folks were concerned about, and definitely enjoyed learning a lot about new speakers, including some folks that I did not know, like Jermaine Moody, and definitely some other folks that were new to me. And hopefully they'll be coming on this platform to share their stories, because they did have some amazing stories. Dr. Sharon Brown was one of them who'd gone through a lot of abuse as a kid and is now out there doing a lot of work to make sure that others do not have to go through what she went through. So definitely it was amazing seeing some of these amazing folks that came on the platform. Of course, Veronica Hardy was another one that was on, and I think we've had her on here on this platform, and Fran Harris also. So always great seeing some great folks sharing their stories and sharing their visions and what they've got going on in their world. So definitely it was amazing having that conversation and everything along those lines. And it looks like Tim is letting us know that he's got another round going on. So we definitely want folks to know about that's going on. So he's teaching those classes. So be sure to go over there and check that out, because it's very important for us to support our friends that are doing amazing things. And definitely Tim Sohn, he's doing some amazing things. He's had some great students. I've had the pleasure of having some of his students right here on this platform. So always great to see him come on and share what he's got going on in that sense. So always great to see our friends doing truly amazing things and enjoying what they've got happening in their world. So definitely I'm glad that that's going on. And of course, folks are out there getting their vaccines. I just was talking to my Aunt Julie yesterday, and she told me that she and my Uncle Randy had gotten theirs, and that there was definitely mom has gotten hers, and I know that my dad has got his as well. As a matter of fact, I think they may be on their second shot, since they are in that right age range and all of that. Unfortunately, yours truly is not in that, and I'm not a first responder, so I have not had that privilege yet, but hopefully they'll get around to me and I can get the shots as well, the vaccine shots, and see how that goes. I know that definitely my good friend Zach was saying that he wants to get his shot, and he's definitely, I think, in line to get his in the very not too distant future. So we're hoping that's the case, and we're hoping that everybody will get that as we try to get this herd immunity and try to get everything under control with this pandemic that we're still in the middle of. So that's one of the things that's going on in our world and all of that. I know a lot of folks are also paying attention to what's happening on the political front and seeing how that is going as well, because we're always interested in what's happening on the political front, because that's a concern that a lot of folks have in terms of getting the word out. I've heard good news about the stimulus package. It sounds like it will probably pass all of Congress sometime this week. My good friend Bill Tresvant told me that on Funk Music with Zach yesterday. And if that's the case, then we may get our next version of the stimulus checks within the next month or so. And he also seems to think that the unemployment will go up as well. So definitely we're keeping our eyes on all of these things to see how this all plays out and what happens in that regard. So definitely it'll be great to see if that happens and what happens in that regards. But I know that definitely we've got a lot of folks are doing that. As a matter of fact, Tim was saying that his parents have also got their vaccine. And we've got folks that are paging Brian Showman. And if Brian wants to come in here and the rest of the gang, we are always glad to see them come on as well. So anybody that wants to come on, as a matter of fact, I think I'm going to send Tim the link. And if he wants to come and join the radio show, we're always glad to have our good friends come and join the conversation, depending on how busy they are and what they've got going on in their world. So we always love having our friends come in and share their thoughts and everything right here on the international broadcast media. So definitely always some great folks here in the world and all of that. Right now, I'm going to just catch a little bit of a breather and maybe give y'all a little bit of musical taste and everything along that line. You know, I love giving y'all some music, even doing my show and all of that. So I'm going to see if I can find some music taste, or maybe I'll find some other things within my things that I have in terms of brands and other things that I can bring out and talk about. So I'm going to see what we've got here, but definitely I will be reaching out to Tim and others and seeing if they want to come and join the conversation. So definitely it's always some things going on and all of that. So great having some amazing conversations, some amazing things happening in our world and all of that. So I know a lot of y'all are very much engaged in things that are happening, and y'all love to share what y'all are have happening in your part of the world, whether that's here in North Carolina, whether that's in Pennsylvania where Tim is, whether that's in California where Brother Brian is, or whether that's a number of other amazing places that are around here as well. So definitely some great conversation is expected, and we're going to see what happens in that regard. And I see that Ankit is watching, and he's already given his thumbs up to some of the conversation as well. And of course, we have some great shows here on the network, one of them being Talking Upstream. So I'm going to let y'all check out a little bit of a spot for that. Then I'm going to come back with some news as well. So for those of you that are watching, I would love to know what y'all have gotten going on in your world. Because like I said, I know a lot of folks have been paying attention to a number of things happening in society and around society. So I would love to know what some of you have going on in your part of the world as well. I'm sure a number of you are involved in a lot of great things and may be willing to share some of those amazing things with us and everything within our audience and all of that. So definitely, if you've got some great things happening in your life that you would like to share, then come on over here and share them with us. We're always glad to have some great guests sharing what they've got going on in their world. So definitely, I'm hoping that some folks will share what they have happening, and definitely let us know what's going on in their part of the world, because that's just some of the things that we love doing here on the international broadcast media. So like I said, definitely, I know a lot of folks are engaged in a number of amazing events, some of them even happening during the time of COVID. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact that there are two film festivals taking place right here in Durham, North Carolina, and they are both going on right now. And I think one will end before the other, but Nevermore started on a Friday, and that is a film festival that deals a lot with horror and fantasy and things of that nature, sponsored by the Carolina Theater. And I've actually watched a few of the films, and I was on the judging committee for that as well. So definitely enjoyed being involved in that and sharing some of the enjoyment with folks that were involved in that with me. So definitely that's one going on. And then on today, being the 1st of March, the Hayti Heritage Film Festival started. So all of these are on a platform. If you go to either the Carolina Theater website or the Hayti Heritage website, it's actually the same platform that they're using, but you can actually see these amazing movies. And there are some great movies around all kinds of topics and all of that. So definitely I would encourage folks to go over there and check those amazing film festivals out. Because like I said, I think you will be pleasantly surprised with some of the great films that are being developed by many of our great folks that are out there. So definitely, I've had the pleasure of having a few of the folks that were involved in the Nevermore Film Festival here on this platform. So definitely, we've had them on and enjoyed having them on as well. So definitely, that's just some of the things that are going on in our society. And I know a lot of folks who have been involved in that and have definitely been having a good time checking those things out. So I hope that many of you will continue to go out and check the virtual festivals, check out whenever you can, get out to concerts and things of that nature. I know that some friends of mine actually went to a what am I trying to say? They went to a venue in Ohio. That's right. They went to a venue in Ohio and got a chance to get out to the clubs, because I do know some clubs are open, some are not, but we're just trying to see how things are going to go in that regard. So I do know that some of the clubs were open, and there were some folks that went to them and had a chance to check them out. So definitely that was one of the amazing things that has happened and all of that. So definitely have some great things that have been involved, and I've met some amazing folks. One of them is one of our past guests. So I did want y'all to check out a little bit about what Veronica Hardy has got going on as well. So I'm going to let you check out a little bit about one of her things that she has happening in her world. So let's check this out.
Hello, my name is Natural Breeden, and I'm introducing a new author and her publication. Dr. Veronica Hardy is an inspirational speaker, author, and educator. Through her writing and public speaking, she uses the power of story to reveal and confront challenges experienced by the readers and listeners. And this is showcased through her book, A Letter to My Sisters, Reflecting on God's Promises. Dr. Hardy, what influenced the title of your book?
I can say, now I did change the title a few times. It went from, I think I started with calling it Tamar's View, to capture more from her perspective. Mm-hmm. Then I switched it to Everybody Has Their Stuff. We all carry something. Yes. And then finally I decided to pray. God, what do you really want people to receive or know from this book? Mm-hmm. And so that's when A Letter to My Sisters, Reflecting on God's Promises, really came to me, because I felt it was really fitting that I was writing something for other women to read from my heart to theirs.
Oh,
thank you.
Now, Dr. Hardy, why did you choose the story about Tamar as the basis of the book?
I feel like oftentimes we don't talk much about the women in the Bible who have gone through difficulties, mm-hmm. such as her. She was raped or sexually assaulted by her half-brother. Okay, and I just thought that was an important story to be able to bring out. And I thought it was important to kind of bring out her story, how she responded to it, so we could also look at how we respond to it as well.
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Hardy, how does the story of Tamar serve as an example for you?
I would say strength for one. It seems like she didn't hide it at all. And I think sometimes if someone were to ask us, we want to cover it. We don't want to
Yes.
share it. Why? Because we're carrying the shame, or we feel like we're guilty that we caused the situation to happen to us. So I was glad she was able to share it with her brother, acknowledge it, and then he said to her, "Don't take it to heart." And that message spoke to me that we don't have to carry what someone else did to us. We don't have to make that become part of our identity, but for us to remember who we are, because she was a princess. Okay? And that's not taken away because of what someone else did to her. And I just wanted us as women to remember who we are in God's eyes.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Like I said, had the pleasure of working this week with Eric Kelly, who is an amazing artist, in addition to being the mastermind behind the Black Business Olympics and the other things that he's got going on as well. So definitely wanted just folks to learn a little bit more about what's going on in that regards. But now we've got our guests coming into the house as well. So definitely glad to have our guests coming on. So I'm getting ready to bring them into the conversation and all of that. So definitely looking forward to having a great conversation and all of that. So how are you doing, Miss Cassandra?
I am doing well, Mark. Thank you for asking.
No problem. How are you maintaining in this world that we live in terms of like the pandemic and everything else that's going on? I know that a lot of folks are trying to survive, but you actually decided to make a pivot and decide to retire at an early age. I'm actually a few years older, around 58. I'll be 59 in July, but nowhere near retirement. But I'm like, this woman decided to go into retirement.
Absolutely. That was actually a dream I had when I graduated from college, believe it or not. There were certain goals that I had set for myself. And one was in particular, like when I got like 25, I wanted to make $25,000. And when I was 30, I wanted to make 30,000. And I wanted to always climb to the top of the ladder. But more importantly, I said, I think I'd like to retire at age 55.
All right.
So I was blessed to be able to do that.
And I know that seems to be the goal of a lot of folks. A lot of folks want to retire by that age, but a lot of times society and other things don't allow that to happen. So what would you say to folks that want to get into retirement at such an early age and everything? Because to me, 50, we're living longer and longer. So definitely, I'm thinking one of the things that you get to do now, I've actually got a friend that used to do this a lot when their mom was alive and still tries to do it, but doing less of it because of COVID. But they used to go on cruises and they've been to several countries and all of that. So I'm imagining that that's something that is what you're trying to do in your retirement, is enjoy your family and enjoy some of the places that you've wanted to go to.
You're absolutely right. And let me preface that by saying I retired from corporate America. So I
Okay.
don't think I'll ever retire because it's like if I'm not growing, I'm dying. So I'm
Right.
always looking for the next best thing for me. But one of the things that I would suggest to people at such a young age, you know how you have people that you meet and they say, well, what age would you like to be when you retire? And at 20 something, I was like, retire? I haven't even thought about retiring. So I actually listened to her. She was older than I was. So therefore, I respected what she said. It sounded like it made sense. Although I did not do what she said immediately, but I did invite her back to my home. And from that point on, that's when we started at the age of 20, when she started telling me about saving and buying homes. And I'm like, okay, I think I can do that. So that's what started my journey in retirement.
Well, I know that's interesting you say that, because one of the things that one of our founders talks about in terms of the international broadcast media is she's of the opinion that we don't do enough of that in terms of teaching our kids about savings, about the things that they need in order to live and everything. I know that one of her, it's either her or the other founder's favorite expression is that we're using 21st century, 18th century values in the 21st century. So definitely feels like we're not doing enough to teach our kids that they can come up with a plan to retire, or even maybe even start their own business and everything of that nature. So I was just wondering, as one that has written a book about retiring early, would you agree with her?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what was very helpful for me, that the organizations that I worked in, I had what I would call allies, and they were also older than I was. And they would make recommendations like, we all know about the 401k plan. And people would say, well, I can't afford to invest in that. And I was like, well, why not? So if I can like give $10 or $30 or $50, and I was able to do that. So I was open to listen to individuals that wanted to give me advice that were doing things that I wanted to do. So I'm like, well, why not? So that's what I did, and I never lived above my means. I would get an apartment that I could afford. I would not buy all these fancy things because I was looking towards the future. And what was in the event that I lived long enough? What if I didn't have the money? What would I do?
Right. And definitely, that's what I think enough folks don't do is look further into the future and how they're going to handle all of that. Now, what made you decide that you were going to write the book? Because, like I said, I know you came up with the book and definitely sharing your thoughts about retiring at this early age and everything. But was this something also that was on your mind all the time, that you always wanted to write a book, or is this something that you just wanted to help other people get get to where you are?
Well, actually, I've been writing a book for the last 15 years. It's kind of like this. You always hear people that say, I want to start a podcast. I want to write a book.
Right.
I want to start a business. I want to sing. Everybody this is what I want to do. And I was like, well, what is stopping us from doing those things? So I said, well, it sounds like we're stuck. And initially I thought about, well, why don't we just get out of our own way? And maybe that has a lot to do with why we're not pivoting and moving forward with our dreams that we'd like to accomplish. So at that point, I had an event at an airport. I traveled about 80% of the time in my career. So my office was at an airport. And one of the things that I love about traveling were the people that I met. And it just so happened, if you are a frequent traveler, you will be delayed. You will stay overnight. May not get to your destination for two, or I don't know, for a day or two. And it was an incident that occurred on a full flight, whereas the flight was delayed maybe about 11 at night. It started to leave at 5, and every hour there was a different story. So as a result of that, I looked at the people's faces and realized that, number one, somebody's going to have a heart attack. Blood pressure was going up, and it was just chaotic. And what happened is one of the agents left and left one girl there, and you would think it was chaos. I thought the police were going to come and just calm everybody because it was just crazy. And then all of a sudden, I got up. And I went to this lonely old agent and asked several questions about what's the next step? Do you have any hotels for these people? What about vouchers? What about your recovery plan? I did all of that. And I took her mic and I made an announcement. And this is something that I would not ordinarily do because it's out of my genre. But I saw chaos and I decided, something inside said, you can take care of this. So I had people get in their own designated lines based on what it is that they wanted to do, and everything got quiet. Wow. And then I sat down and I said, what was that about? And something inside says, if you would get out of your own way, I would do some miraculous things in your life. And that was the onset of the book. And I said, okay. Yeah. So I did something that I wouldn't ordinarily do, but I had the skills to do it. I knew what needed to happen to calm people down. And that's what started the writing of the book. And that was about 12 years ago.
Oh, wow. So that was 12 years ago that you had that experience and everything. Were you always thought that you wanted to go into corporate America? And what was that like? I mean, were you one of those folks that was involved in the kind of business community? Because actually, earlier this week, I was actually involved with a business empowerment event. Actually, I was involved in two, one last week and one this week, that was dealing with our minority community, the African American community. So were you one of those folks that was always thinking that you wanted to be in business and corporate America, or was this something that came to you later?
Mark, unfortunately, I never really knew what I wanted to do. So when I went to college, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So only thing I knew that I wanted to live independently. So because I did not, I actually took advantage of all the resources that were possible in college. And as a result of that, I was in an internship program and I did not take that. I turned that down. And then the support at the school encouraged me to continue to look for opportunities. And I just got a job as a manager trainee for one of the big three automobile industries. And from that point, I relocated to Birmingham, Alabama, and that was the trajectory, the start of my career. And I just started at corporate and kept on going and
Okay.
worked in corporate for about 30 years.
Oh, wow. What advice would you give to others that are in the younger set that are thinking they want to go into corporate? Because I know right now a lot of people are thinking that they are trying to get away from corporate because they're thinking that that's not the mood or the place to go because we have so many people doing gig jobs and entrepreneurial jobs. But sometimes corporate might be the move for folks. So, what kind of advice would you give to folks that might think that they want to go into corporate America, or do you think that we're actually getting away from a corporate America mentality?
I think today a lot of people are getting away from the corporate America mentality, but on the other end, there are individuals that aren't quite sure what it is that they want to accomplish. So by getting into that environment, you can learn and grow with whatever environment you get in. And also, everyone's talking about politics. There's
Right.
politics in everything,
Right.
corporate and church and schools. I mean, everything. So I just felt that that was because I did not know what I wanted to do. If there are
Mhm.
individuals that know what they want to do, God bless you and pursue that. But I
Right.
knew if I wanted to live independently, I had to do something. And I just believed in my heart that God would continue to just bless me along the way because I had no clue what I wanted to do. But corporate is okay, but I would recommend that when you do get in, if in fact you get in corporate, and this is any organization, that you build relationships.
Right.
Relationships are critical. So, you know, and then from that point in time, you can probably decide and grow because whatever industry, whatever you get in, there are going to be challenges
Right.
regardless.
Yes, I know one of the challenges that folks have been talking about in corporate America for years, and I just wondered your thoughts about this and your experience with it, is the whole concept of the glass ceiling. And that can be either for the minority community or as a woman. So I'm sure that you ran into that. And how did you cope with that when you ran into it?
Well, for me, back in when I started in corporate, there weren't there weren't any, hardly any African Americans. And I was the first in every job that I was asked to get in. I'll give you a great example. I used to work for a Fortune 500 company, and the human resources guy interviewed me. And he called me on the phone, I'll never forget, at 10 p.m. one night, and he offered me this job. And
Mhm.
I said, and I accepted it. And from that point on, he says, "Oh, thank God, I met my quota." And at
Wow.
that time, I wasn't sure what that meant. And I will say I was the first African American female general manager for Courtyard Marriott Hotels.
Wow.
So I paved the way. I was definitely a trailblazer. Because I was naive, I wasn't quite sure what that was all about, but did I grow up fast? And I understood that I was faced with racism in every position that I've received. So
Right.
it's tough. So what I tell people when you're involved in inequality and racism, to just get connected if they have a diversity and inclusion class, you know, a session or training, and show them who you really are, that you are effective in what you do, and just stand up and just do well. And I was fortunate that I did well in my jobs, and many of them were surprised that I did so well. And I was put in a flagship hotel where people could come to the hotel and be trained by me.
So I'm imagining that you've seen enough of the hotels and the travel. I was teasing you about that earlier in terms of retirement, or is that something that you still enjoy doing? Is getting out there and trying to get traveling, or did you see enough of that being in that hotel space that you're not trying to do as much of the world travel as I know some folks try to do when they retire? You know, a lot of
Yeah.
that is on hold now because of COVID and everything. But before this pandemic, were you trying to get out and enjoy the travel aspect of retirement? And if so, what are some of the places that you've enjoyed traveling to?
Well, I have probably been to every state in North America, with the exception of Mississippi. And that's what I enjoyed also, secondly, about my job, because I got to go everywhere. I met a lot of people. I know people in a lot of the states, and I've been to Europe because one of the companies I work for is headquartered out of Paris. So when I did retire, I said to self, if I don't ever travel again, I am okay, because that's all I did for years and I was worn out. Now that COVID is somewhat wrapping up, I like the islands. I like the beach, and I like going places. I like to go places I've never been before. So internationally, there's a lot of places I've not been. So if I start traveling again, that's the direction I will go in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Earlier, you were talking about those diversity classes and things of that nature. And I know that that became very big recently after the whole thing with George Floyd and a number of other folks. So we are seeing more businesses that are going in that direction in terms of like being engaged in diversity. Do you think that the world in general and the United States in general is doing enough in terms of diversity training?
No, I don't. We can always do more. There are a lot of companies that are still resistant to the fact that they don't think that they need it. But one of the things from my experience, it does have to start from the top. If it's not embraced at the top of the organization, it will not go well. And also, you have to kind of tack along an incentive. And unfortunately, what would happen if you had a certain amount of minorities in certain positions, the senior levels would get a certain incentive. They get paid for it. So it has to be a reason, and that's unfortunate, but it has to be a reason for them to embrace it. And
Yeah,
many of them say they do, but they don't, because a
right.
lot of them don't understand what they don't understand.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and not having that true understanding and everything. And speaking of not understanding, do you think that enough folks have an understanding of what they're getting into when they go into corporate America? And what are some of the number one lessons that you've seen people not have a true understanding of when they got into that corporate space? When they came out of college and went into that corporate space, what are some of the number one mistakes that you've seen people make?
Their mouth, not taking things seriously, not coming into work on time. Just the basic things, not being present, defensive, um, don't want to work those long hours.
Right.
Many of them do not like attending what I would call social gatherings,
Mm-hmm.
dinners, balls, and all that's necessary based on what it is you'd like to do within the organization. You have to do the networking. And for us, I think what I've seen is we worked harder
Mm.
because we're trying to prove that we're capable of performing a certain job. And I'll give you an example. I used to work for the president of a corporation. And one of the things that I used to do is go and meet C-levels, like the CEOs, CFOs. I was in the healthcare industry. And when I would go in, the CEO of a hospital system would say, "Oh, great to meet you. Are you such and such admin assistant?"
Mm.
And I'm like, admin, why would I be an admin assistant? And so embarrassed. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I'm the vice president of client retention. So I would always run into situations like that. And when you do, you have to decide how you're going to respond. Because I always say, never burn your bridges, because you may need to cross them again.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And we actually had a friend of mine's Black Business Expo that he had going on last week. He actually had Dr. Danetta Watson on, and that's actually one of the things she was talking about in our wrap up meeting on a Zoom call last night, where she talking about how she feels that we get so caught up in our consumer mentality, meaning the African American population and even some of the other minority populations, that we don't do enough in terms of being relationship building. And it sounds like that's one of the things that you are very much adamant about, because I know she's got like a organization is around Black entrepreneurs and things of that nature. But it sounds to me that that's something that you also coming out of corporate America would also be encouraging people to do, is to develop those relationships. Because I think that sometimes we think that, you know, the golf game or the dinner or some of those other things that are corporate are not for us, or that they're not important for us. So, but they can be very important in terms of like creating new opportunities for you. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about your thoughts on that importance of a relationship building.
Mhm. Well, we can't live without them. And I always say when we build relationships within our organization or whichever sphere of influence that we're in, you want to make sure you connect with what I'll call a decision maker,
Mhm.
a person that's an influencer, a person that is a sponsor, a person that is an ally. And that comes with experience and your observation and to just to get to know people, because I have interviewed for different roles and I did not get the position, and I knew that I was best qualified, but because of the relationship that I had with the president of a division, I felt very comfortable going to him and having an honest conversation. And particularly when you don't get the roles, I'd always go back and ask them, what could I have done differently? So relationships are, I just say, don't get one, get three, get a coach. I
Right.
think it's very important. I call it, get your personal board of directors. Every organization has a board of directors. So
Mhm.
you get those people, and I used to actually train relationship building. And so I totally believe in it. And it's just critical, because if you don't have them, a lot of people will get a position because of who they know.
Right.
But once you get the position, you better know that you know. So that's why, if this person knows this person, I could connect you with this person. It's a small world.
Mhm.
So never underestimate the value of those relationships. And I encourage people to get mentors as well. And it's okay to get a mentor that's not your color.
Mhm.
It's okay to get a mentor of a different ethnicity. And a lot of people want to stick with, well, it's kind of like when we go out, all of the African Americans sit together. And if we all sit together, then they be like, wonder what's going on over there.
Right.
And if they don't know you, they will make assumptions and continue to believe that they'll continue to stereotype us.
Right.
And that should not be. But once they get to know you, I've even had people say, you're different. I'm like,
Mhm.
what do you mean I'm different? You're not like the others. And that gives me an opportunity to use my voice and ask them, what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned coaches, and I do think coaches are very important. And I've actually had one of the speakers the last weekend, or last, yeah, it was over the weekend, was talking about the importance of coaches and all of that. So, how important have coaches been to you, and who have been some of those coaches that have inspired your career and everything? Because I do agree that coaches are important, and they can even come from your own family. Because sometimes those coaches might even come out of your own family or your own sphere of influences. But I'd love to hear you talk about the importance of coaches, and you also had mentioned the word influencers, and I know that that's a word that is oftentimes used, but I think sometimes people don't understand what an influencer is. So I'd love to hear you talk about the coaches, but also what you mean by influencers. So I think that
Okay.
I know what you mean, but a lot of folks
Yeah,
don't.
sure. Sure. Let me talk about coaches first.
Mhm.
Coaches is, if you think about a football team or a basketball team, a coach wants you to win.
Right.
And they're going to work with you so that you may. They will also be candid with you. They'll tell it like it is. They're not mixed. They don't mess up their words. And another thing is, I have a coach that is a friend of mine
Mhm.
that's done is extremely successful and actually on corporate boards. And because of her experience, I used her as a coach. But you want to be careful, but it all comes with experience, who you decide that's going to be your coach. Now, one of the things I recall in business, and people say, well, why don't you get so and so to be your coach? Well, you want to get who you're comfortable with.
Right.
You don't want to do what this person said, because the chemistry may not be there. So if you get a mentor, they can probably help you with that. But you want somebody that has your best interest at heart, not going to sugarcoat what's necessary, going to tell it like it is. And also, when you have a coach, you want to have an objective. Why do you want a coach? What is it that you would like for me to do? What is it that you want to accomplish? So actually have goals in regards to what it is that you want that coach to do for you as well, and what you can do for them. So it's also reciprocal. There's certain things you can do for them that they can learn from you, and vice versa. Now, let me talk about influencers.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you're trying to get a new piece of business, so to speak, and you may know someone that's a big influencer in that corporation that has the ear of the president of the corporation.
Right.
So that's why I say, it is even worth doing a strategy session on relationship building if you have a corporation. You understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And we talk about the B2B, corporate, and you
Right.
just want to make sure that you have a strategy, and the strategy should include everybody within your organization. And people should be linked to three different people, three different influencers, decision makers, because when an influencer leaves or when people change, everything can change.
Right.
So you want to stay connected with different people in your organization. So that's what I call an influencer that can really influence the decision makers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How important do you think it is for folks to stay involved with all aspects of the corporate society? Because I know a lot of times folks will get into corporate America and they'll want to get to know the president, the vice president, or people along those lines. But I don't know that they pay enough attention to middle management, or even in some cases to what folks might consider lower management and people that are definitely not even in the management sphere. I've actually always believed that when you go to work at a corporation, that it doesn't hurt to know the restaurant worker or the janitors or a number of other folks that are not even in management positions. So I was wondering, in the corporate lineup, how important do you think it is to have relationships and to have communications with all aspects of what's going on in the business?
I think that is very important to have a relationship with everyone. Never underestimate the power of the people that work for you. They can either make you or they can break you. So if they believe you care, literally care for them, they will take care of you. And a lot of the employees, let me use a housekeeper, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Housekeepers know a whole lot. They know
Mm-hmm.
where everything is, in an organization, even a sanitation, a cook.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I always say, never underestimate what they know.
Right.
Because when you want to make changes in your organization, people usually go to the top and talk about what it is that they should be doing in order for the organization to grow. But if they go down the bottom, and I hate to use the word bottom, but
Mm-hmm.
I just think people downplay the people that help and make their business. So relationships should be done all around. And I'll tell you a story where we've had an employee who used to babysit the president's
Mm-hmm.
daughter. So tell me if that's not an influencer.
Definitely an influencer, and definitely has a lot of connections that and
Exactly.
knowledge that other people might not have about what the president was thinking about and things of that nature. But I also
Exactly.
sometimes think that we don't know enough about our institutional memory, and I think that that's something that corporations also make a mistake in. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. But I know that I've worked with some nonprofits and everything, and sometimes when they do their layoffs, and of course a lot of folks did layoffs this past year because of the COVID and the way that it impacted our economy and everything. But
Mhm.
sometimes those that get laid off are the ones that have had tons of institutional memory. And if they don't come back, and a lot of them probably won't come back, then you've lost that institutional memory and all of that. So I was wondering if you could talk about the importance of institutional memory, because I personally think it's very important. And I think sometimes corporations don't even understand the importance of it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, because what I have observed with a lot of organizations, if you get maybe to that 50-year-old, they're looking for someone younger. They're
Mhm.
looking for someone younger because they can pay them less. They feel they have more energy.
Right.
But one of the things that they don't realize is they're not loyal. A lot of them are, and they're gone. So that intelligence has also gone. And what they will do, I've found, is they will have you train the individuals that come in, and
Mhm.
then they very quickly get rid of you. But that intelligence is critical because of the knowledge, the wisdom that we have. I think is critical. Um, Even what I would call down to earth.
Right.
You know, a lot of people are so high on a pole that they don't even know what's going on with everybody. And so, therefore, they kind of dismiss again what it is that they have to offer. But I'm concerned even about that in our government. You know, a lot of people are retiring and getting out of there, and you look at who's coming in, and it's a culture. You got to understand your culture and what's important. And I think that's kind of why the automobile industry got hurt a little bit, because they was mundane. Things are changing every day. So people just need to be on top of that, and embrace the knowledge that people have or have gotten from their organizations.
And one of the things that you had the advantage of doing was actually, and I know sometimes people also get stuck in thinking that they need to be only in one type of corporation. But as you were talking about your journey and your trajectory, it sounds like you had the pleasure of actually being involved in a number of different types of corporations. Because, like I said, you definitely have mentioned the automobile industry, the hospitality industry, and a number of others as well. So, how important do you think it is to learn skills that you can carry across different platforms, whether that's, like I said, the hospital industry, the line of first responders, which I know are definitely getting a lot of play right now, but also being involved in hospitality and a number of other things. So, how important do you think it is to be able to carry those skill sets across different platforms in terms of job market?
I think it's very important that you, like I said in the beginning, it's important that you learn and continue to grow. And if you're in the same area all the time, you do get stagnant. And, and you don't appreciate a lot when you've been in that, because it's mundane. So I like to always go to different capacities. I give you another example. By me being in a management role, when they interviewed me to be a general manager of a hotel, if I did not have some of the management skills, not only because I was an African American female, I had two things against me, but because of the management skill, they took a chance, this guy, to meet his quota for me to run a hotel. And if I didn't have that position there, I probably would not have even been considered. I've even worked for FEMA, and
Hmm.
that is just getting an understanding too of what people go through when they are have disasters. And just knowing what's the money that the government will give them to lend them, what are some of the things they can get to help them out, what qualifies you to get help from FEMA. So, and all of that excites me. I'm like a kid in a candy store if I could learn something different. I don't want to just know that, because I want to keep my mind sharp, because once it's in your mind, that's something nobody can take away from you when you have
No,
that
definitely got to
education.
keep your mind sharp on a regular basis, and you've definitely been doing that. And speaking of mind sharps, I definitely want to bring in my good friend Tim Song, because he's popped in and everything. So hopefully he's going to hear me and join our conversation, because he's also about folks
Hey,
sharing
Tim.
wisdom and
Hey,
sharing knowledge
Cassandra, how
and
are
all of
you?
that.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, how's it going? Cassandra
Great.
has
How are
actually
you?
written a very interesting book that I think that you will find interesting as well. She's written a book about retiring at 52. And I know that you're actually got folks doing a lot of different things in the terms of even learning new skills at that age. Because
Yeah.
some of your students are in that age range, some are younger, but everything. But Tim has gotten this whole program. This is the third session, right, Tim? That we're in the third session, or is it the fourth?
Uh, I think it'll be the fourth. I have one coming up on March 15th. We just wrapped one up. Believe that was the third.
Okay.
Hard to keep tracking Corona World, but I
Yeah,
think it's
it's a
going to
little
be
bit
the
hard
fourth.
to keep track of. But yes, but one of the things that he's doing is he's teaching folks how to use video, how to use the whole marketing of what we've got going on in terms of using these skills and all of that. So definitely, and like I said, some of his students are definitely in that age range of 50 and above. As a matter of fact, one of his students, and she may have been in the first class, is a woman named Veronica Jean. And I know she's definitely in that age range because she's definitely been involved in, is considered like the e-commerce queen. So she's doing a lot in the e-commerce field and is now using videos to help get that out and everything. So definitely, Tim, glad you were able to join us and everything. But I was just talking to Miss Cassandra about what it was like even retiring at 52. And I know you've got those young kids and everything. So I don't know that you and your wife is a teacher. So I'm not sure you're going to be able to retire at 52. But do you think that that's something that you would like to do?
I don't think I'll really want to retire. Like, I can't picture myself after I'm retired just like not doing much of anything. Like, I'll probably be like volunteering or I don't even know what, traveling, a whole bunch of things. I don't even
And
know.
that's one of the things that Miss Cassandra was talking about, was the fact that she does not consider herself retired, because I think that she's even serving on various boards and a number of other things, even though she's retired from corporate America. But definitely,
awesome.
Are there different organizations that you're involved in with Miss Cassandra? And so what are those organizations, and what are some of the ways that you're staying involved and engaged?
Well, when I did retire, I worked, like, if there's some volunteer programs, like I work with FEMA, there are things at the church that I will do. And writing the book was very time consuming, but worth it. And it took me almost a year to write the book. I did start a consulting company at one time. I'm not really doing that, but my background is organizational development. So if you need something to be fixed, then I'm the person that can go in there and fix it. I'm a strategic person, can kind of take you from the beginning, and you tell me what your goals are, and we'll work a plan for you to get to the end result.
Yep, definitely. And that's a great thing. Tim, like I said, I put it on the screen and everything, but who knows? Maybe even Miss Cassandra might want to take the class as well. So if you can tell folks that are watching a little bit about the class, I'm sure that we would love to know more about that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Thanks so much. So the class is called Survive and Rise with Live Video. It's a 6-week course where people from all over the world come together. Our main hub is in a Facebook group, and it's for people who want to start their own live shows in order to either increase impact or income, depending on their goals. And we go over everything from how to get past the fear of being on live video to actually shaping your show, figuring out what the goal for your show is, what you'll talk about, how to promote it, really everything you need to do and actually launch it within the 6 weeks in a supportive, safe community all together. And I like to say, like, really anybody can learn about live streaming, right? You could just go to YouTube and Google how to live stream. But the amazing part that I love is all the people that come together, all the connections that you make, and supporting and celebrating each other. That's what I love about it anyway. And I think
that's
others
what it's all about. And definitely,
but you were in the program, Mark.
Yep, I was first class or second class, one of those two, but depending on the numbers and everything. But definitely, it was a great class. It definitely helped me learn a lot of these skills, including even able to do conferences. Because I was actually, like I told you, this past 2 weeks I've used StreamYard and some of the other things to help run some conferences using their platform, but then bringing in different guests to talk. So definitely, it's even given me some other revenue streams as well. So we're always trying to figure out revenue streams in this age of COVID and all of that. So, Ms. Cassandra, how did you manage so far within COVID, and how has it impacted you and your family? Because I know it's impacted a number of folks. You definitely said you had the consultant at one point and are not doing that. And I don't know whether COVID is what impacted your not doing it or not, but how have you been coping in this pandemic, and what is your thoughts as to the future and everything? Because I'm hearing a lot of people thinking about hybrid models and other kind of models. So there's some folks that are wondering when we'll be totally out of it, but I was just wondering your thoughts.
Well, I I just want to applaud Tim for what he is doing because it's definitely needed. Virtual events and live shows, and that's the way of the future. I remember when we started the virtual concept is that I've always used Zoom based on because being in the business world, but I'm not saying I'm a perfect person on Zoom and I still needed some I still had a little learning curve. But for example, my husband, who's a school teacher, I think when he first said when the word came out that we're going to do virtual, he says, "Well, I think I'm going to retire," because people have this trepidation about, "Oh my gosh, I can't do that." I even think of my dad. He's like, I'm never going to learn how to do that. I'm never. But if you want to stay in the game, you have to. There's no way around it. And you're right. You talk about fear. So I think during the COVID, my friends and I just stayed connected on Zoom because you want to keep that connection. You do not want to isolate yourself because of what's going on. So, so I just steady using Zoom. I attend a church on virtual. Everything's on virtual. We
No
have
doubt.
wine parties on virtual, New Year's Eve parties on virtual. So it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and they actually Tim and his one of his business partners, Brian, actually on this platform had a whole Halloween party on Zoom as well, and they had a number of folks that came dressed and everything. So they had a great Halloween party that actually won an award here on the International Broadcast Media. But they did that, and you and Tim actually have something in common, which is that both of your spouses are school teachers because his wife is also a school teacher as well. So definitely, how is that? How have they been sharing that experience? Because I know one of the things that folks have been concerned about, and we just here in North Carolina got news that I want to say they said the majority of our students did not do that well on the standardized testing because they're still trying to get adjusted to the whole Zoom and the whole different other platforms that they are using. So I don't know how it's going in your respective areas, but how have you heard about the results in terms of testing and everything? Because like I said, I just read an article yesterday where they were saying that the majority of North Carolina students did not pass those standardized testing because they were not used to the whole new system.
Wow. The standardized testing, Tim may can allude to that. I'm not that familiar with it, but what I do know, because the kids will start going back hybrid models, there are a lot of kids that says, I'm not going back. I mean, why go back now? If we're doing this on virtual, let's finish the year out on virtual. So it'll be interesting to see how many, because my husband teaches high school.
Right.
So I think
my wife does as well.
Oh, really? So I think the younger kids, they'll go back, but the high school kids, they're like, I'm not going back until the fall.
Yeah.
What does your husband teach? And I forgot what your wife teaches, but I'll be curious, and I'm sure our audience would love to know what the individuals teach as well. So, what does your husband teach in the high school level, Ms. Cassandra?
Yeah, well, he's a physical education teacher and a head football coach and a track coach.
Okay. And Tim, what does your wife teach again?
She teaches math and physics.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining that that's probably impacting his sports as well, because you said he's the head football coach as well as the track coach. And I know a number of times, even here on the North Carolina area, a number of our schools that have not had full seasons. They've had only partial seasons, even on the college level. I have no idea how they're going to pick a tournament based on some of the ways that some of these teams have, like, in some cases, half of a season or a quarter of a season based on who dropped out and who did not drop out and what games were picked up and a number of other things. So I can only imagine what it would be like on the high school level.
Oh man, it's something else. They no season at all. I think now they're going to do spring practice and may have a couple, maybe 3 games, but not really. And I think it's really impacted guys that are seniors, because the colleges have not had an opportunity to scout them because they're not playing. So that's a whole different dynamic, the way that's going. So my husband wasn't too happy about that because he's certainly a sports guy.
Definitely, I can understand that. I have some sports interest myself as well, and got some cousins that coach and have an uncle that used to coach on one level or another, even though he's way retired and is definitely even further in age. I think he's in his late 80s and things along those lines. But he definitely was involved on the college level. And I think maybe even a little bit on the high school level and all of that. But if I remember correctly, Cassandra, you're in Alabama, which is definitely very much of a football area, because I mean, there's college and there's everything else that's very much piqued interest there.
Yeah, yeah. But actually, just so you know, Mark, I used to live in Alabama. I'm now in Maryland.
Okay,
So
that's right.
I never did say that. I told you I traveled a lot, but I moved a lot too.
Moved a lot too?
Yeah, I used to relocate a lot for corporate, but they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
I've
right.
been a
You
lot.
don't see that as much. And why do you think that is? Because we don't see that much moving people around from business to business, or from office to office, I should say, not business to business, but from office to office. But it does seem like that has declined even before COVID. That seemed to have declined. So
It's
why do you think that
expensive.
is?
It's very expensive to do that. So, you know, and plus you can work from home now. So, you know, and when you travel, you don't really need to do that. You could be in the office at your home. So it's very expensive to relocate.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorite places? I know one of the things Tim always talks about is he loves being in the country part of Pennsylvania with the bears and the deers and the rapids and everything of that nature. So
I didn't say I loved it. I just said that's where I live.
Ah. Oh, wow.
but what has been one of the favorite places that you have visited in terms of just like the different places that you've worked at? So what's been one of your favorite places, Miss Cassandra?
Well, it's so many. I like Savannah. I like Austin, Texas was one of my favorites. Even Omaha, Nebraska. Um, you know, I'm a shopper. So whenever I traveled, I always found there were certain things I looked for, and one was boutiques. So when I would go to a certain place, I'd find out where the boutiques were and just have a ball. And California, but I guess my favorite place was Paris.
Oh, well.
Yeah, because the culture is just so different, and the fashion is phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely. Tim, have you done a lot of traveling as well, or have you been pretty much just there in the Northeast? And are there any favorite places that you've enjoyed going to?
Well, I enjoyed going to San Diego. There's a conference, Social Media Marketing World, that I attended two of. And the last one was last March, right before everything shut down. So I love going to San Diego, but I've also lived several places. I've lived in New Mexico and New Hampshire, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Cold.
Very cold in New Hampshire. Pennsylvania
Yes.
here too. This winter has been crazy
Yeah.
with the snow.
Yeah.
But I miss California.
Yeah.
I like it there.
Yeah, California's got a nice vibe. I've never been there. I keep saying that's one of the places I'm going to go, even though I've got friends like our mutual friend Brian, and definitely my filmmaker friend Ronnie that has lived out there. But I've yet to get out to California, even though I know a number of filmmakers and other types out there. But one of these days, I was not overly impressed with Las Vegas when I went out there. I did go out there for a couple of years ago, and I think that the fact that as soon as you step off the plane, there are the slot machines trying to get you, and you don't even have to go that far. So I think that might have been one of the things that threw me off about that. So, and definitely the neon lights, I guess they're all right, but they didn't overly impress me. So maybe other people are more impressed than I am, but I was not a super fan of Las Vegas.
It's a popular place. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
That is true. They say that what stays there does, whatever goes there and stays there, and nobody knows what you've done or have not done. So that is their kind of mantra and everything. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to. Me and Tim might have to put you in touch with Veronica Jean, the lady I mentioned that does the Shopify whole aspect of shopping and everything. Because I know she's originally from South Africa, but she's also, I think, very much involved in a number of shopping kind of venues and things of that nature. So she may be able to help us find the boutiques that you need to go around the world that you haven't hit yet.
That would be great. Great.
How
But you know what?
How important this is for both of you. Do you think networking is? Because I know that I've done it enough on LinkedIn, but enough times, even in the business world, I don't know that we do enough about networking. So I'd love to hear from both of you how important you feel the whole aspect of networking is, and whether people are doing enough of it and enough true networking. Because I think that sometimes you can have networking where you meet people, but you don't necessarily do the follow through. And like I said, I try to do follow through, but I know a lot of folks that will collect folks like left and right, but they don't really follow through with them. So, Miss Cassandra, you came out of corporate America, so I'll start with you and then come to Tim. Do you think that we do enough with networking?
I know in corporate, certain people did. I think it should be, particularly now what's going on, networking, I think is very, very important. It's just like, I've never met Tim, but I'm definitely interested in what Tim does, particularly when it comes to the virtual um, platforms, because that's something that's needed. And I know other people who would probably be interested. So, and another thing in regards to networking, Mark, you're so right. People will meet people and they don't follow up with them. And I'm not one to take a bunch of business cards. We have a stack of cards, like we get ready to play spades or something. If you're not going to do anything with them, why take them? And there's a purpose for networking. Why do you want to meet people? Is it notoriety? When I used to in corporate and mentoring a lot of people, they wanted to know this person. And like Mark, like you said, I want to connect with the president, but why? What are you going to say when you meet him? What's the motive? So there's it's an art and a science behind networking. You have to kind of know what it is in your mind and the purpose for doing that, because people are so busy. Everybody wants to meet Jeff Bezos for what? Why? So but I think it's important, and I don't think we do enough of it.
Right. What about yourself, Tim? Do you think that we do enough networking, or can it be done in a better and more improved way?
I think it depends on the person. I know for me, and just like in terms of my course and in terms of like, we're here right now, right? Like Mark, we met because of Sri Srinivasan's show.
Right.
And you ended up in my course because you saw my sponsorship on that show.
Right.
And for me, I network a lot, and I intentionally follow up with people, and sometimes even people that I haven't talked to recently, but I just think, who haven't I spoken to recently that's in my network that I'd love to catch up with, see what they're up to, see if there's any way that we can support each other and things like that, But for me, and I'm sure many other people as well, networking is a big part of growing their business. Also just, friendships and, relationships, things like that.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that. How important do you think it is, and you actually just mentioned this, Cassandra, earlier, to have those mentors? Because I definitely am a big fan of mentors, but I also don't know that we get enough mentors. And you talked about coaches, but I sometimes see that folks don't always understand that there can be a difference between a mentor and a coach. Yeah, your coach can be your mentor, but sometimes there can also be a difference. So I'd love to hear you, Cassandra, talk about some of the differences.
Well, mentors, I believe, are very important. A mentor could be a mentor for finances, understanding the financial component. I could have a mentor, for example, I just wrote a book, book's not published yet. And, my target market is like young ladies from 39 to probably 50 is my
so basically
target.
Me.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
No.
So, just somebody that's had that experience that I could connect with would be just somebody to give me some counsel in regards to my book and what I should be doing, because I've never written a book before. So it's kind of like Tim said, depending on what your objectives are, and you have to be intentional. And I don't really what I call waste time with people that's not going to be of benefit to me, because it's a time waster. Not that I negate them, but have to be purposeful. You know, if somebody calls and says, let's do this, like, is that going to work for me right now in my life? So I just think, you know, the mentor, you can have different mentors for different things, even for corporate or the business you're in, Mark, or Tim, producer, virtual events, you know, just people that are in that genre, I think would be very helpful.
I just had a great idea. I think that Tim or one of his students needs to create a video for your book so the book can actually get some more word out there and everything of that nature. So it's just an idea that popped into my head. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, definitely a possibility. Let's talk.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
Let's talk. Yeah,
It's always a great
Let's
idea
network.
and everything.
that's right.
Huh?
That's right.
It's always great to plug folks and to connect folks in that way and everything.
Right.
You just mentioned what you thought the target market was for the book, Miss Cassandra, and everything. So definitely, what gave you that idea that that was your target market, and also, do you see it being beneficial to others other than that core target market? And what are some of the ways that you're either trying to get published and or trying to get it out to that audience?
Well, the reason I came up with the target market is because the book basically is about a lot of my stories in regards to what were some of the things that got me stuck from living my best life. And so, for example, it could be things like, you know, we're comparing ourselves. And this is for women because I can only talk about what I've been through, you know, and for fear. Like, I'm not going to have the resources to do this. It's just like if I wanted to do a podcast and that was a goal, I'm stuck. I never move forward with it. So I'm just targeting the younger women that I believe have so much more to give and much to offer the world, and for certain things that like they want to do, like podcasts or sing or speaking or writing blogs, you know, there are things that stop it. We get paralyzed from writing books. So what is it that's stopping us? And I say a lot of it has to do with our background, how we grew up. Our backstory plays a major part in what we do as an adult. So I'm believing that that age group, I think the timing, I think is great, particularly for now. And what I've talked about, like so many of them are confused about their purpose. Like, what's my purpose? You know, and they're stuck on it. And it doesn't have to be something big. You know, it can be a little thing. You could be a caregiver. So just trying to give some nuggets to younger women that even experience racism and inequality. You don't have to be an African American to experience racism. You know, people that are disabled experience inequality. You know, sexism is inequality. I have all of that in the book, and that's why I thought, you know, that I believe, I know that's going to be a benefit to so many young women. And in regards to publishing, I've done a lot of research and not sure, you know, I'm not, I was listening to a podcast the other day from an agent and was saying if Kim Kardashian wrote a book, I'd take that right away because I know her. She's a brand. But Cassandra, you're not a brand. So you have to prove to me, number one, that you can sell this book. You have an audience, you have social media, you know, they're looking for, it's all about the money. You know, when you do certain things, it's that bottom line. So now I'm settled for now on self-publishing. That's where I am now.
You know, you just mentioned something that I think would be very interesting to our audience and everything. And we've actually talked about it with a number of guests here on this platform and everything. And that's the whole concept of self-sabotage. Because I do think that sometimes we self-sabotage ourselves and we don't even go for the journey in terms of whatever because we're self-sabotaging ourselves. So I'd love for you to, both of you, to share about your own experiences with self-sabotage and how important it is to have a purpose. Because I think sometimes we just kind of wander around and don't necessarily have a purpose or have an idea of what our purpose is. But I'd love to hear from both of you that concept of self-sabotage and the importance of having a purpose in whatever you're doing.
I'll let Tim go. I'll be interested to hear his.
Refer to the ladies the whole time.
Self-sabotage and purpose? That's the question, right?
Yes.
So purpose, really, everything I do is for my family. We have two young girls. They're 9 and 6, and my beautiful wife Joy. And this coronavirus time has certainly been a juggling act in terms of it all. It was anyway, right? Anytime you have a family and a business, juggling it all. But we intentionally, I think it was January now, we switched the kids to remote learning. I know a lot of people did that way back, right? But the numbers have been climbing and climbing and climbing here. And in fact, this whole entire school is going to be virtual for the next 3 days. So I'm glad we did that. So purpose wise, family is really at the first and forefront of everything I do. Self-sabotage. I don't know. What do you mean exactly by that, Mark? Could you give me some more
When you
context?
kind of like stop yourself from doing something because you don't feel confident in your own abilities. So you might think that you're gonna do meet this person or that person. I know a lot of times it definitely happens in corporate America, but maybe you don't go for the job even before you've had a chance to apply for the job. You've already convinced yourself that you won't get the job.
Yeah, I've definitely felt, especially recently, I don't know why, but that whole idea of imposter syndrome and like, looking at other people's social media that also do what you do, and you're like, why are they doing that there and I'm not there yet, and I've been working so hard, and why am I not? I guess that's all I have to say about that.
What about yourself, Cassandra? Because definitely I've seen
know.
it a lot in corporate America, and I've actually worked on different levels of corporate America. Like I said, I've worked in Measurement Incorporated, which is one of those standardized testing companies, but it is definitely has a corporate framework and everything. And definitely I've worked way back when at what is now, well, it was Glaxo at the time, but I was in the shipping and receiving department. So I think I keep forgetting because they keep getting, all these corporations get bought out and merged and everything. So I think it's GlaxoSmithKline now, or it might have even been bought and changed into something else. But definitely, how do you feel about that whole concept of folks that don't even say necessarily apply to be a vice president? You were a vice president and everything, but because they've already said, I'm not going to get that job. Why bother to apply?
I sabotage myself. Particularly when it's interesting. When I was in my 20s, you could not stop me. I was like, oh my gosh, I was just all the way live, and then as you get older, things in your life experiences that have happened start to deter you, I think. And so, for example, me being the first female African American, my sabotages was, am I good enough? Do I meet this standard that they're looking for? Then I will compare myself to the white guys, which was not good. And then when the women came in, there was some comparison there. So it's kind of like Tim, you said, like there's some people in corporate that will get to certain positions and you wonder why. And if you would have done some of the things they did, you would have been fired. So, yeah. So those are some of the things that, just it's all in your mind, and that's why it's important for your relationships to talk through things. That's why it's important to have your mentors, your allies. And I think one of my biggest things was experiencing inequality and racism. And I'll tell you this story. And I, by accident, I received a document of every general manager's salary, and I was the lowest one on the totem pole. And I was like, oh my God. So that deflated me. Like, I wonder why I'm not getting paid with it. And I've been here longer and my hotel's doing quite well. So we're our own worst enemy. So I just, and wondering whether I'm in my purpose. And sometimes you don't know what it is till you get older, and you reflect back in retrospect on your life and say, you know what, I really enjoyed that, or I was good in this, and I made a difference in this person or that. And I think social media is it's a detriment a lot of times, because people compare themselves by looking at what this person's doing, what that person's doing, and perhaps you weren't created to do that. So you stay in your lane and do you. And that's when I believe you'll make a major difference, when you stop doing that. But I think the comparing thing is just huge with a lot of people.
No, I think a lot of people definitely compare themselves. And actually, one of the things I was just curious, and I wanted to know your thoughts on this from a corporate level, and particularly from a hotel level and everything. And I guess the same could even hold true for the airline industry. But I remember there was a time that folks would also use the perks, and use the perks as a means to kind of like help their friends and family and things of that nature. Because I know definitely I had some friends that work here in the hotel industry and all of that. And I remember there was a time that they would definitely give those passes and things to their friends that were supposed to be those ones just for employees. So you think that we see enough of that going on, or more, or is that, because I'm thinking that's probably not even supposed to be allowed. But I do know a number of times there were a number of folks that would do that, and they would try to pass it on to their friends and everything, trying to get those discounts. And I think that I know within the Marriott franchise, they kind of put a halt on that after a while, but there was a time that they were a little bit looser. So I was just wondering,
Yeah,
is that still something that folks do, and have they tightened up those reins?
they've definitely tightened them up. You have to, you will get terminated if in fact that's being done, because that impacts the bottom line. And when you do have certain positions, then you talk about network, and your friends come out the woodwork,
Right.
because they have something, they have a hidden agenda, they have an ulterior motive why they want to be your friend, because they want to get a room, or they want to get a free ticket, or they want to do this, or they want to do that, so they have definitely tightened that up, and I'm glad that they have.
Yeah, I knew that was something that was definitely going on in both the airport and some
Yep.
other industries as well. So I was just curious as to how that was going and everything. What are some of the things that surprised you about the corporate America, particularly in the hotel industry and everything? Because, like I said, you did work at Courtyard Marriott for a number of years, and I'm sure that there were things that surprised you even in that field. So, in your different fields, what are some of the things that surprised you the most?
Hmm. People that worked for me, it depended on the gender. It was tougher. Um, like, for example, if there were women of my race, I would get a very hard time. And if their boss was Caucasian or Asian, they wouldn't have a problem. And that was very surprising to me, that they would have a tendency to, I would say, respect them more than they would me, particularly when I knew that what I was doing or saying was right. I wouldn't have done anything to sabotage them. But those were some of the very surprising things. And also, if in fact you do have someone of my race in a higher position, I usually was promoted because of a white man, not a black man. That was very surprising to me. How the roles that I got was because of that.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I remember that there was actually a situation like that that I went through actually at a newspaper, because there was actually somebody that I felt did more blocking in terms of blocking job advancement and things of that nature than some of the other coworkers. I was only there for like about 6 months, but there was one other African American gentleman that was in that job, and I did feel that he sometimes gave me a harder time than he would have given other people, because he liked being the big fish in the small pond, because it was in a small city within Florida and everything. So, like I said, I think he enjoyed being, because I won't say he was the only one, and then I came along and got the job as well. So I do think that sometimes we don't do enough to support our various communities, whatever those communities are, and things of that nature. So how important, and this is for both of you, do you think it is to support and help people grow when they are coming into whatever the jobs are? So I'll start with you, Cassandra, then come down to Tim.
I totally believe in paying it forward. I mean, I can't say enough about that. I mean, you do unto others like you would have someone to do unto you. So paying it forward, if I can help you, it even makes me feel good that I could make a difference in someone's life.
Yeah. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, I totally agree with Cassandra. Even like in the live streaming world, I always show up for other people's live shows in the comments to support them. And, whenever you can show up and to support people, celebrate people, all the things, I think that's really great.
Yep. And one of the other things that we're going to wind down very shortly and everything that I've always very much impressed by, and I know one of your people that is a good friend of yours is always talking about that and the importance of it in his life. But I'm also a big supporter of faith and all of that. So I was wondering if both of you, because I was actually thinking of Russ Hedge, who's very much about faith and everything. But how important is faith to both of you in terms of your own life and your own goals, and even in terms of like just trying to create whatever the businesses are, whether that's you, Cassandra, as an author, or you with the live stream. So I'd love to hear you talk about the importance of faith and spirituality in your life. Cassandra, I'll start with you first.
Okay. I was wondering who was going to be first in that one. I have very strong faith. Actually, the book that I wrote, every chapter starts with a scripture. At the end of every chapter, I have a scripture to expound on it. I would not be where I am today if it were not for my faith. So that's very strong, and I don't hide it. I just tell it like it is. And when I mentor people, that's in many instances, that's all advice I can give them.
Before I get to Tim, do you have a favorite scripture that's like one of your favorites? I know that some people are into Proverbs or into Psalms or even some of the more common ones, but do you have a favorite scripture of your own?
Mine is John 10:10. Yeah. Wow, just slipped my mind. But the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and God came so that you may have life and live it more abundantly.
Oh, wow, that's powerful. Tim, how important is spirituality and faith to you, just in terms of all the work that you do?
Yeah, it's definitely important. I actually play organ at my church as well, so love music. But yeah, I mean, faith guides, everything I do, whether it's work or life or all the things, just in terms of values and those kind of things. So yeah.
That makes sense. Cassandra, Tim just brought up music, and I am a big music fan. Love everything from my blues and jazz to my R&B and everything. So is there a particular music that is your go-to music that you are big fans of?
I just like music. I love female vocalists. So I just like female vocalists. No one in particular, but that's the type of music I like Sade or Phyllis Hyman or her, and I just like. But I don't play any instruments, although my dad wanted me to, because he was a jazz guy, but I never played instruments. I used to sing in the choir, though.
All right. And what about you, Tim? Was there any favorite music of yours? You're on mute.
I don't think I have any favorites. Not off the top of my head.
Gotcha. Oh, by the way, Tim, I've decided that is the number one live error that goes on in everything. Because like I said, I did the conference and everything, and I can't tell you how many times this past week and last week I heard somebody say what I just told you, which is that you're on mute. Because even though the producer might be in control, you can also put yourself on mute on the other side as well. And I think that folks oftentimes forget that they're on mute. And sometimes we want them to be on mute, because I also know that there sometimes can be feedback if there's a lot of folks in the room, like I would say over 4 is my general experience and everything. But definitely I know in those cases we tell folks to put themselves on mute. So I was just wondering, as just folks that are watching that might want to get a tip of live video things, do you think that that's the number one error that folks make, is the whole mic settings and things of that nature. Because I can tell you this conference this past week, so many times there were different moderators. I was actually just doing the behind the scenes engineering in that case, but I heard several of the moderators saying what I just told you, that the mic was muted, and then the person would play it off and then have the great presentation that they were going to do.
Yeah, that definitely happens a lot. And the thing is with StreamYard, the platform we're using now, is that if the person mutes themselves, if they mute themselves, then I can't unmute them.
Right.
At some point. So it's on, they have to hit the mute button.
Right. And I think sometimes they don't know that.
Yeah. The other thing I've seen is that if you have everyone all set up all before the live show or the virtual event, and people are all set up with their headphones and their microphones, and then you put them backstage and then they unplug something, and then you bring them in, they're probably going to be muted. And then they have to refresh their screen and come back. And that has happened several times. And yeah, that's the other one I would say, that it doesn't happen too often, but never disconnect anything after you're already all set up.
Yes, don't disconnect anything, because that would totally mess everything up. And I have seen that happen too often, where folks are disconnecting things and all of that. I know one of the other things, and I was just wondering your thoughts on this, that I've seen happen a lot is that I know they've added that video file capacity and everything, but unfortunately what I've seen so far, and maybe you have a workaround that I don't know about, but it winds up doing that whole rotating thing. So like I said, it doesn't always load as fast as it should load and everything. So then you've got that whole grinding thing going on, where you might have some blank space where it's trying to load up when they do the share video file, that the new share video file.
Oh yeah, I haven't actually used that too much yet, so I haven't seen that issue, but I will keep my eye out.
Yes, definitely keep your eyes out for that, because that can be an interesting issue that can happen sometimes and everything. But I think I've only tried it twice, so it might have been on, as they say in corporate America, user error. So it could have been on my error, it could have been user error, not necessarily on their error. So it could have been user error and all of that. What's some of the worst corporate mistakes that you think folks have made, Cassandra, just in terms of general? Because I'm always fascinated by some of the corporate mistakes that we hear about, sometimes even in the news. So I would love to hear some of your thoughts about some of the corporate errors that you have seen that have surprised you or shocked you.
Drinking too much. You know how you go to events and they just had too much to drink. Also, gossip. You have to be careful who you're gossiping about. Also, your computer. You never know who's going to walk behind you when you walk in the office, when you're in the office and you're on your computer.
Right.
Yeah. That's what comes to my mind about being in corporate. That's kind of funny to me that I've experienced. It's been really hilarious. The drinking part has been, they just tell it all.
Right.
Yeah. They tell it all.
Tim, you actually came, before getting into this, I think you came out of the corporate world as well, if I remember correctly. So what have been some of the things that surprised you when you were in that corporate space, and do you ever miss that corporate space? Oh
man, I don't anymore, because I love the flexibility of being able to make my own schedule, especially having a young family. I used to work at newspapers, so when I traveled to all those different places, I was working at different newspapers. Mostly at night on the copy desk, so like writing headlines and laying out pages and all those things. But what was the question again? I need coffee. Are you still there, Mark?
Uh-oh.
Paging Mark Lee.
Is he on mute, Tim?
I think he's just stuck. I think he's frozen.
He's frozen. So what do we do now? I have no idea.
Now it becomes the Cassandra and Tim show.
Right.
Sure, he'll come right back.
Yeah. So Tim,
Yeah.
So what do you specifically do? You train individuals or
Mhm.
how to do virtual events, or I see you're a producer of virtual events and live streaming.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a few ways that I work with brands or individuals. One way is through producing virtual events. So actually helping people shape the virtual event, what it's going to look like.
Okay.
Might give tips how to promote it, but then also being like behind the scenes and bringing on all the guests and all the graphics and all the videos uh, and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main way that in terms of virtual events, I really support. And I love to work with organizations that really want to make a bigger impact. Where
Mm-hmm.
it's more focused on impact um, than all about the money.
Right. Okay. Okay. How do I get in touch with you?
Yeah. So you can find me. Are you on LinkedIn?
I am.
Oh, perfect. So you could just search for my name, just like it
Okay.
says on the screen.
Sure. Okay.
Um, yeah. And how can I get in touch with you?
I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter under Cassandra Crawley Mayo.
Okay.
But
What is your
yeah,
last name anyway? Past the
M,
C.
yeah, Mao Mayo, like Mayo Clinic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you
Oh,
just
there he is.
have it wrong in
Yay.
corporate America and lives. The TV can disappear and the battery can go dead. But
Oh
definitely, I'm
no.
back on another computer. But that's one of the things that can go wrong in a
Yes.
live. So you just learned one of the things that can go wrong within the whole concept and all of that. So that's one of the things that can happen is the battery can die if
Yes.
you're not paying close enough attention. Tim, I know you said
Yeah.
you had to run off and deal with the kiddos and everything.
I
So I
should.
appreciate
Yes.
you jumping on and talking to me and everything. But one of the things I always do on all the shows is I try to get folks to give their messages of encouragement, their messages of positivity, not just for us here in the United States, but for the global community. Because one of the things the international broadcast media does is it has folks from all over. Because we got shows even from South Africa and fans and other people that are involved that are from New Zealand, Australia, and a number of places around the globe. Canada, our northern neighbors, and a number of other places. Oh, can't forget Nigeria and my good friend brother Mike. So definitely we've got shows from other places and audiences from other places as well. So always love to
Right.
give words of encouragement. So I'll start with you, Tim, since you've got to bounce and go take care of the kiddos.
Well, it's ironic
It's
you
ironic
asked
you
that,
asked.
Yep.
and there's a lot of echoing. Because this has been an especially tough week. So uh, keep going, drink lots of
I'm not hearing
coffee. Can you hear me, Mark?
No.
Hello, hello.
I hear you, but I don't know if Mark does.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cool. What about you, Cassandra?
Oh, he did hear you. There used to be a saying, the sky's the limit, and I don't even think the sky's the limit anymore.
Any
I think,
words of encouragement that you would share with our audience and all? That's one of the things I was asking. Any words of encouragement that you can share with our audience and ways that they might be positively uplifted?
yeah. There's actually, can you hear me? You can. Okay, Tom. I don't know if Mark can.
I can. Mark, can you hear Cassandra?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay. Mark, what I said there are no limits. There was a saying that the sky is the limit, but I don't think there are any limits. I think if there's something you want to do and be intentional about it, build relationships, it's okay to ask if you don't know. There are a lot of resources out there. Just reach out. And I'm certain there are a lot of people that want to help you get to where you want to go.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that and everything.
Mhm.
Tim, what do you have on tap today with the kiddos? Because like I said, y'all are always usually doing fun things and everything. Oh, by the way, I think that I should invite Cassandra to join Brian and Tim on one of their Wednesday or Saturday shows. On both of them, you get to, well, I guess it's the Saturday one that you get to do the whole dancing aspect and everything. But I think you get to dance on both of them. It's Wednesday that you get to choose your own music, and Saturday y'all pick the music. Am I correct, Tim?
Yeah, exactly. Saturday's show is called Shout Out Saturday. And what we do is people come on live on, we're live on LinkedIn and Twitter, and people share who they're grateful for, who they're thankful for. And we do some dancing live on screen, all of us. And it's just a fun opportunity to put the spotlight on others and shine the positivity and hopefully not the echo. And, yeah, I'll put the link in the private chat where we do that.
Cool.
Okay.
And tell her about the Wednesday one as well, real quickly. And then, like I said earlier, what are you and the kiddos going to be doing in a few minutes as they're probably getting off of school?
Yeah, they're off of school. I hope they're not causing mayhem, but they're kids. Yeah, so the Wednesday show is called What's Good Wednesday, and share what's good in your world or in the world. And also, but you get to pick your own song to dance to instead.
Okay.
Pick your jam.
Yep.
Okay.
And I've given them some old school jams. They love it when I come on because I'll pick them, challenge them with like some old school jams from the Cameo era or Stevie Wonder or some of those other old school jams like that.
Right. Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yes. Stevie Wonder, something along those lines.
Right.
But
So
the music
so Mark, so we tell you what music we want to be played and you play it?
Well, it's the Tim show, and Tim actually on one of the shows they have a character that's basically a pineapple, and the pineapple will play the music for you and everything. And on the other one, there is a video that they play that is of a gentleman in one of the African countries that's doing a dance, and you kind of like have to dance along with him. Correct?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes, just like that. And I'll put the link in the private chat here to Saturday's show. That's where you could watch it. And if you want to join us, we'll post the link to join us live in the comments as it gets closer.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to meet you, Cassandra.
Nice meeting you too, Tim. I look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn.
Yes, definitely. Yep. Thank you, Mark.
No problem. Fun. Good. Glad you enjoyed it.
Yes.
Excuse me. That was a little bit of a cold there. So Cassandra, as he bounces off and we get ready to wrap everything up, I've actually got you ready to do my other show as well. Okay. What other positive messages would you love to share with the audience in general, just that you haven't shared? So anything that you would like to know or share, this is your opportunity to do that.
Share. Well, I would like to share the name of my book. It's called Is Your Way in Your Way? Right. The subtitle of the book is Navigating Self-Imposed Barriers to Live Your Best Life. And it is actually a book of letters to women talking about certain barriers that we impose on ourselves, along with some tips to help you to get free and do what you were created to do, because we all have a purpose in life. And just to be able to identify that and do it, because people without a vision will perish. So this is something that'll keep you going.
Definitely. We need more things that will keep us going. Who are some of the books that are like this, these kind of motivational books that inspired you as you were even thinking about creating your own? Because as I was hearing about the book and everything, it reminded me of some of those other motivational books that have been out there, like Chicken Soup and a number of other ones. So who are some of the books that inspired you?
Well, you know who was my big inspiration, and many on this call, on this podcast, might not even know him. It was Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
I really like Zig Ziglar to a point that I would go to his workshops in Texas, and he would invite us to his home. And he would work with a young lady by the name of Priscilla Shire, who was one of his communication people. And just listening to him, and there's also a guy by the name of Willie Jolly that's a motivational speaker as well. And both of them inspired me. But more importantly, to the audience, there was a minister by the name of Reverend Miles Monroe who made a comment that stuck with me, and it will stick with me forever, when he said that the richest place in the world is the graveyard, and that's where so many unmet dreams are. And so with that, I've made a decision that I'm not going without any of my dreams not fulfilled. I don't want my glass to be half full or half empty. I want it to be just done, and that I'm doing what I'm purposed to do.
That makes a lot of sense, and we definitely got to do whatever we're purposed to do, and all of that. And you mentioned those obstacles, and I definitely think there are a number of those obstacles that we deal with, and you've alluded to some of them. Are there any obstacles that you haven't mentioned so far that you would like to mention that folks need to be aware of? Because definitely, I think there are a number of obstacles, and we've alluded to some of them, whether that's race, sex, or disabilities,
Right.
but definitely there are others as well. But are there any obstacles that you feel that you would like to uh, speak on that you haven't spoken on?
Yeah, I talked about a little bit about entering the real world.
Right.
It's a lot different than when you with your parents or guardian, but when you're on your own, it's very different. I also have an obstacle that we wear masks figuratively,
Hmm.
not being who we are. We feel like we have to hide behind something. Esteem battles, low self-esteem is another self-imposed barrier. Even health and mental illness is a self-imposed barrier. There even one is people really dealing with, is there a God? I have a
Right.
chapter about that. And I also have one about dear women who are confused about your future, about your purpose, and also dear women who carry old scars and resentment. That's a pivotal one that kind of stops us and being who we are to be, because we're so busy not forgiving, and we got so many things inside that we can't be that person. And also people who've lost a loved one.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
We
another.
actually, my friend Veronica Hardy, who actually right before you came on, we were playing the commercial about her book. She talks about that because she talks about trauma and grief and things of that nature, and she talks about some of the other things that you were talking about as well. Because I definitely think that even at my age at 58, I'm one of those perpetual single people so far. But who knows? That could change at some point or another. But I do know that in past relationships, I have run across folks that have definitely not let those past pains
Yep.
let a new relationship start, and that's actually impacted our relationship. So I definitely know what you're talking about when you say that the folks need to, as the old expression goes, leave the baggage at the door.
That's right. Because every day we age, and we are guaranteed that we all getting out of here one day. We don't
And I
know
mean
when, but we are.
that we may not know the win, but that is a given to everybody that there is no. I've got a good friend of mine, Ray Pascal, that is always talking about. He's actually suffered and gone through strokes and a number of other things, but he's always talking about the fact that I'm trying to think of the exact expression he's got. We all know our birth date, but none of us know our end date. And as he puts it, we just have to go and enjoy that period in between, or our expiration date. None of us know our expiration date.
Exactly. We call that the dash,
Right.
the in between. And I will say this, Mark, you alluded that you were single. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Well, yeah, and you talk about faith. Well, I in my career, I was single.
Hmm.
And then shortly after, then I got married. So I've been married for 5 years. So
Oh wow.
it's never too late.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it's never too late, and there's never telling when those avenues will open or when things will happen along those lines. I just kind of
Right.
like let life live life and try to let God determine what that journey will be and all
Exactly.
of that. So
And he
definitely.
will.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, there's
Hmm.
no doubt about that. And so many of those things that you're talking about in terms of those obstacles, they're true not just for women, but they're also very much true for men as well. So, like I said, I
Yeah.
think a lot of those obstacles are obstacles that are across genders, across orientations, across classes, across races, across a number of other things. So, I
It's
think a
true.
lot of the things that you're talking about in your book, folks will find very beneficial. No matter which part of society they are in or which part of the world they're in, because I think that these are the things that we think even happen in other parts of the world. It's not just here in the United States, but it's also
Exactly.
in other parts that they go through similar things as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thanks for that.
Oh, no problem at all.
Yeah.
If folks are interested in getting the book, you said you haven't published it yet, but if they're interested in learning more about you or getting in touch with you, how can they find out when the book will be released and what methods can they get to getting the book when it does come out?
Well, you can always go under my name, Cassandra Crawley, Crawley. The last name is Mayo, Mayl. And let me tell you a little bit about self-imposed. I'm in the process of doing my website, and I have an Instagram account, and I have a Facebook, a LinkedIn, Twitter, but it's not geared to the book. So I thought about, wow, if someone's interested, how can I give them information to follow me? And I said, well, it's not there yet. So my self-imposed barrier was like, I can't do this podcast today because my website's not up. So I just knocked that to the side and said, if you pull my name up, Cassandra Crawley, Mayo, you will find me. And even on my Facebook and my Instagram. And I'm also a blogger as well. So I have blogs and books. Yes.
What's the title of the blog?
The blog, Get Out of Your Own Way. That's the name of the blog. Mm-hmm.
And is that found on Facebook or on Substack, or which blog outlet are you using to folks to catch that blog?
Yeah, well, right now I have it on WordPress and Wix.com. But what I'm finding, if you type my name in Google, it comes up.
Okay. So folks can check out that blog and everything of that nature. Blogs are very much important. I actually was just looking at a blog that I've been slowly creating, but it's not quite where I want it at. I think I've done like 3 entries, but I was thinking about writing a 4th entry. So I've got to stop doing some self-stopping of my own. So I probably need to do that later on today or at some point. I know I've got 2 more podcasts to do, one more of these streaming one and then my audio one, but there's no excuse for me to not get it done in the next day or 2. So I definitely need to write another entry and stop stopping myself, because like we've been saying several times, that's what folks do way too often. Just really quickly, and I know it's a deep topic, but actually we're going to have a guest later on. I'm not sure if he's coming on today or next week or on the Wednesday show, but he's talking about heaven and all of that. And you mentioned the your own thoughts of heaven and all of that. So I'd love to know your thoughts of heaven, because I do sometimes feel that we sometimes don't, what we can't see and don't understand, we sometimes write off as not being all that important, no matter whether you go to church or just consider yourself spiritual, or maybe even don't go to church at all. But I do know a number of folks that don't always understand the aspect of heaven, and they don't want to definitely even talk about heaven. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on heaven, because there's a gentleman, I think he's actually claims to have had some experiences of even having crossed over and all of that. Is going to be a guest on one of our shows coming up very soon.
Mm-hmm. That should be real interesting. Well, for me, from the table of contents to maps in the Bible, I believe it all. So to answer your question, I do believe in that. And most recently, my father passed, and that's why I wrote a chapter on to women who have lost a loved one. And I think that gave me solace, number one, that I knew that I was able to do for him for his end of life what he wanted. And I just am at a point now that in the event that I'm gone tomorrow, I have a peace about it, because I know that I'm going to a place where there's no sorrow. And that's my belief, and when I say in the book to live your best life, not my life, your best life. So heaven is something that I believe in. I don't know all about it. I have friends that have passed away, but that has given me solace and peace that I'm going to go to a better place. But while I'm here, I'm going to do my best by the grace of God to make this a good place as well. So in the Bible, it says what's done on earth is done in heaven. It was done on heaven, is done on earth. So this is my heaven now. That's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. So that I want to do all that I can do that I'm created to do.
Yeah, sounds like you're doing a lot of that, doing some great work in that aspect. And definitely, I know a lot of folks that are watching and listening are probably seeing that you are definitely being very purposeful in your life. And I think that more folks need to do that as well. So definitely, I know that that's something that we don't do enough of, is being purposeful. Well, you've been a great guest, and I'm ready to wrap the show up, but I definitely want to thank you for being on. And if you can anytime that you want to come back, you're always welcome. I try to have my guests come back multiple times. Sometimes folks will come back and even pop back in on other conversations. Tim is a somewhat of a regular, and there's others that have popped in regularly as well. So do know that you have a home here on the International Broadcast Media, and particularly with any of the shows that I do. So if anytime that you want to pop back on, you're always welcome.
Well, I really appreciate this. I appreciate the opportunity. And just for your audience to know, this is my first podcast.
Cool. Well, you did great. You did an amazing job, and you did great. You answered some questions, and you definitely handled it quite well. And I think that folks learned a lot about your background, about what you've got going on, and how the book came about, and even a lot of the reasons for the book. So definitely, I think that you did a spectacular job, and I look forward to having you back on in the very near future.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I know I can get in touch with you on the platform that I use that you reached out to me.
Yes.
On. Okay. All righty. Yeah. Well, thank you.
No problem.
And bye for now.
See you for now.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So that was Miss Cassandra Mayo sharing about her book, about retiring at 52, sharing about a lot of other things that were going on in her life. She was an amazing guest. Was glad to have her on, and now I've got to get ready to go do Mullins Music and Memories, my other podcast on Mondays here on International Broadcast Media. But right now, I'm going to put on some ads about some other shows, including one that has moved to Tuesday. So you'll see one date, but it's actually going to be on Tuesday, and I'm actually going to be producing that one. That's Win with Win. So I'm actually looking forward to being our first production of our show on this coming Tuesday. So looking forward to that. But right now, let's check out Talking Upstream. All right, folks. Well, it's about time to wrap this whole thing up and then go over to Mullins Music and Memories. So let's bring out the show to a close with the same thing that we used to start it off with, which is that lovely little intro and all of that. But it's an intro and outro. So let's check it out and get on over to Mullins Music and